to get involved. That's how people get hurt.
No, that's how people die.
And die, yeah.
Like, people die.
Yeah.
You know, like, that's what I learned at that place, man. I'm like, I see a sign, it's over with. I'm not doing none of this red flag shit, none of that. It's over with. Out of here. And, you know, I did that, but then the guy ended up back there, because there's never gonna be a time when there aren't a cadre of dudes that will look the other way for the cool guy or whatever. Like Kanye West. I think what Kanye West did yesterday with his wife is abuse.
I think that's crazy.
I believe that that's abuse.
Yeah.
And I'm not, gonna get into the details, but that's abusive behavior.
Yeah.
And just because he's, weirdo,
Degrading.
Kanye, whatever.
And the thing is, like, he's out there claiming the name of Christ, but it even says in the Bible that there are certain parts of your body that are supposed to be covered. They're for more honor. Like, you're supposed to cover those. And then he's out there just like that. Like, come on.
But beside that, like, everybody knows this in the hood. Like, if you're really serious about a girl, which he is, he married her. If your girl is walking around with, short, they'd be like, is that your girl? You like, especially where I'm from, like, you want your girl to be classy. If she's a 10, you got a 10. You know you have a 10, but you want her to be classy and all. You don't go around parading her around like that. Like, that's not even in the bro code. It's like, yo, what are you doing, bro? That's not what you do with a girl you marry and you love. Yeah. You don't do that to somebody you marry and you love. So But yeah, look, I'm not gonna say all men are evil, right? Like, there's a lot of dudes who did the right thing. There's a lot of women alive today because certain dudes did the right thing. But it's very hard to go up against an institution. Like Night Ranger was saying, like, in the school, he was the number one guy in the wrestling team. And so the wrestling coach basically said, we can't have you. They
never circled back around to him.
We can't have you doing this again.
It's like,
you're the number one guy. Of course, they always look the other way. They always look the other way. They always look the other way. It's just like the NFL. There was one time he was a football player. He's a running back, and him and his girl got in a fight in the elevator.
Yep.
And the commissioner of the NFL gave him a 3 game suspension. And then the video got leaked. And when the video got leaked, you see dude, like, literally ramming her against the wall and then, like, dragging her out of the elevator. Like, she's not even lucid. She's like... And so everybody saw this and said, that is a 2-game suspension? That? Because he was on a premier team. I'm pretty sure they had just won the Super Bowl a year or two earlier, or were going into the whatever. And so he was,
What happened to that guy that was doing the dog fight?
Michael, he got sent to prison.
You can beat a woman and drag her out the elevator?
He got sent to prison. But this dude took this woman, banged her head against the thing. I mean, it was horrible to see. And then dragged her out of the fucking elevator.
Oh my gosh.
And like we were like, that's a 2-game suspension? What? And then they came out and suspended him for the rest of the season after the outcry. But that just shows you, like, the institution. Mm-hmm. Like, there are institutions in our society, in our culture, that, I'm not going to say rubber stamps this stuff, but definitely, like, green lights it, looks the other way. O.J. Simpson's another one.
Right.
And that's the thing with, like, these abusive dudes. Like, it's not mysterious. Like, it's not mysterious. Like, the girl, the guy's like, hey, can you pass me the bacon or whatever? And she starts flinching. Like, there's a lot of, you can see, like, when the shit is going on. Mm-hmm. And so, like, I being in those back offices in evangelical churches when people make these decisions, I was just like, are you serious? Like, this what y'all, man. Anyway, that's not the way that God wants us to interact with each other. Mm-hmm. As I tell my boys, God made us stronger than women so that we can protect them against bad men. Yeah. And we can protect them against cowardly men who want to mix it up with females, who want to get big on females. And when there's a dude in the place, You got nothing to say. You don't even come out your fucking house. Bitch ass. Alright, it's tough, but I'm glad we watched it, and I'm glad that, damn DJ Mike. Brutal. Brutal, but it had to be watched. It was an important discussion, important conversations. Girls, please remain safe. And look, there are a lot of really abusive guys out there, and you have to be careful, but there are also a lot of really good dudes, too, that would not abuse you and would protect you against weirdos who do that. And I don't care what you did. I don't care what you said. I don't care if you cheated on him. I don't care if you slashed his tires. He never has the right to put his hands on you and threaten your life. That's just it. Like it is what it is. I'm not saying go out and be a horrible person. Like, I'm not saying that women are just always a victim and never do. I'm not saying any of that. But what I am saying is that there is a demonstrable and scientific difference between male and female physiology. And so if a girl slaps you in the face, it's not the same thing as you slapping her in the face. It's just not. And I also acknowledge that women can also be abusive, physically abusive. I acknowledge it. But there are not a lot of stories of dudes getting dug up in the Everglades because they had an abusive wife, right? So I understand that these are very complex situations as far as how we all interact with each other in this day and age, but it doesn't matter where you are. All of us know this stuff intuitively. So, and look, here's the other thing. People can change, but that does, 9 times out of 10, the change has to happen because they lost you, right? So like, when people go, oh, people can change, like, I agree. But if the guy has been consistently abusing you, losing you usually becomes the number one change agent. So what I'm trying to express to the females is that, yes, they will change, just not with you. After that line has crossed, it is very, very, very rare for true change of mind and repentance to happen to where it's safe for that woman to go back. So it's one of those things where it's like, I've seen this, like, I've seen it in my life, where you're with a person and it could be construed as abusive, and it took you being gone for them to really be like, oh, and the person has changed. Would you would agree?
Yeah.
And so, like, it, you know, people do change, but not with you. And I just think it's like my stepdad said, you know, the first time a dog bites somebody, like, he's like, be done with him. Like, get him out of there. He's like, once they've got that taste of blood and they did the attack, whatever. I don't know how much of that is real, but that is the principle I take for females, though. Like, you should have a zero tolerance policy on that, just because you could die.
Yeah. And if you are, like, ending something with somebody and you sense that they have some controlling, weird, whatever, abusive streak, do what I did. Make sure that there's a man around when you end it with them. Whether, you know, like, sometimes just another male around, even if they're not the type of person that would necessarily engage, sometimes that's a deterrent also for other men. They're like, but there's another guy here, so it does change things. So, yeah.
I walked in on a situation. I understood the dude, you know, shorty had dudes going in and out of her apartment on a daily basis at some point. And this guy, they're no longer together, and there's all these weird dudes around his daughter. I get it. And I'm taking a shower. I'm like almost out of the shower, and my oldest is like, yo, you gotta come through right now, blah, blah, blah. He takes off. I run after him, no shirt, no shoes. And I go to the next house, and there's dude like on top of this woman, blood everywhere. I'm like, yo! And he got up, and, you know, he was completely drunk or whatever, but I gave shorty enough time for her to leave. And my son wanted me to kill the guy. He wanted me to really, you know,
I've not seen something. She came like in our back door, and there was like skin on her from her nose. Looked like it'd been broke. It was.
Yeah, it was terrible. And what she did was horrible. But that's not how you address that issue, man. It's just not how you address that issue. So, and then he put out the restraining order against me.
I know.
What? I didn't even say that to him. I said something to him, you know what I'm saying? Because he was in the process.
He saw your eyes.
He was in the process of like he was gonna kill this girl, and then the dude's like cousin was right there watching the whole thing. I'm like looking at dude like what the fuck, like. So then he put out a restraining order against me. It's like, what? But anyway,
Danaroo said I had a random woman come and hug me and walk with me. She was being followed.
Yeah, I've seen those too. Has
that ever happened to you?
Well, yeah, but I knew the girl. It wasn't some random girl.
I was like, I'm actually surprised that a random person would pick you out of a crowd, because nobody you can't tell by looking at you what type of person you are.
True. Really true.
But you are a safe person. I do remember that one woman when you came out of Walmart and she asked for a ride. Remember we brought her to that? She had a trailer that was broken down.
Yeah. But no, like you know, girls will do that at the clubs and stuff like that. Like if you know they're getting followed around by a weirdo or something, I won't take no for an answer. But yeah, man. Much love to all you beautiful people. It was a tough watch because I grew up, you know, around this stuff. And I think the hardest part for me is that there's always going to be dudes like that, but a lot of these girls would be protected if the people around, and I don't want to put that on the friends. You know, these were teenagers. Like the thing at the end where like the judge was like, "You guys saw it, and you did nothing." Like, I get it. They're talking to us. They're not really talking to those kids. But, you know, 15, 16-year-old kids, man, like you haven't even experienced death yet. So it's hard for them to understand, like, your friend could die.
Yeah.
And so it's really incumbent on, it's the coaches, it's the teachers, it's the mom, it's the other mom who you saw your son yelling and screaming at this girl. You know, that scene with the truck? She heard the yelling and screaming. She did nothing. You know, and it's when you have institutional and societal archetypes like a mother, a father, a parent, a coach. All of these things are archetypes of people who are supposed to protect you. And you know, so anyway,
I like watching those shorts of like where it's all planned. The little kid is in it, and then dude comes up and says, "Hey, you know, little kid, why don't you come with me? I'll, you know," tries to like make it look like they're trying to kidnap.
Yeah.
And seeing the people that are sitting beside, they're like, "Hold on, wait a minute, you know this man?"
Yeah.
And like both men and women will stop the situation, tell him, "Just you need to get out of here. You need to get out of here." And I love seeing that.
Black dude chased the guy down.
Yeah, he did.
Dude ran away.
Yeah.
He's like, "You better beat feet, nigga." Yeah. And I truly believe there's more dudes like that in the world than dudes like that. I really do. And it's just it's incumbent on us. Sometimes, fellas, it's not right to mind your own business.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes minding your own business is cowardice.
Yep. And then there is a side of it too where when they tried to jump in, and it was a domestic situation, and when it's a domestic situation that both people turn on you.
Yep.
Like that happens.
That happens. Yeah.
You know.
Definitely,
I definitely think it's an important message. I do like the way that it ended because I understand what you're saying, like, you know, not putting all that pressure on kids. At the same time, you know, like, I remember my mind at 16, and it's like, you might not know what to do, but that's why it's important to have older people in your life that have this sort of open door policy. Like, you got to have that with your kids and with your teenagers. Like, one of our teenagers the other day was like, just sort of like blurted something out. Like, I think some parents might have thought it was rude, but I was like, okay, I appreciated it because I'm realizing the older that they get, the more authentic. Like, you don't want them to just be disrespectful. But sometimes when somebody's trying to put information out, like, they're frustrated or whatever, and they're not necessarily trying to be disrespectful, they're just frustrated, and so you can work through the situation with them. But I'm not always, like, in the best mood to be able to, like, do that with them, but there are lots of times where you want to be able to do that with them, so that way they have the opportunity to really express and talk, so that way the door is open for them to come and talk about stuff that some kids wouldn't. Like, you know, you saw it in the show, some of them just don't talk to their parents because they don't have that type of relationship. So definitely want to you know, open those doors with your kids so they can come and say if they witness something.
Which is another reason, like, you don't want to have the wait till your father shows up conversation with the boys.
Yeah.
Because then you're teaching the boys they don't need to respect women. They only need to move when a dude comes in to threaten them.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah.
We're going to respect mom as mom, period.
And it's important for them to have, like, you know, both the, you know, the masculine and the feminine in their lives, because there are times where like, our girls will come back and they'll talk to you about some situation. Sometimes they'll talk to me. Same with the boys. Sometimes the boys come to me with something, and then sometimes they go to you with stuff. So, like, having the differences of the masculine and the feminine, where we're similar but we're different also, it gives them the, okay, well, I don't want to talk to them, this one about that, I'm going to talk about that one, but still they're talking to the team.
And they know that we always compare notes and shit. So
yeah, but sometimes they don't want to be the one to announce.
Right. Yeah, she'd be like, you could tell mom. Send me a text. You could tell mom now. Yeah, man. And so anyway, I know the caliber of the dudes in the village. I could eeny, meeny, miny, moe them. Any one of them would get in there, and that girl would have made it out alive for sure. So shout out to all the dudes in the village, and shout out to all the ladies in the village too, because I know a lot of you guys were in those situations personally, and you got yourselves out. So kudos to that.
Yep.
If you are a dude that's ever put your hands on a woman or been abusive and horrible to a woman, you don't have to remain that way. I think you should get into counseling. You know, I used to be, they deserve to die. You deserve to die. Cut his throat. Blah blah blah. And I was sitting there with my partner at the time, because we had our eyes on the sex trafficking industry in our little town, and the officer who, like, was leading that division, the special whatever division, he was like, "Are you guys ready for the fallout? Because there's a reason nobody does this stuff, because you're basically doing stakeouts and you're not a cop, you have no protection, and if you start convincing these girls to do the right thing, their men are going to be losing money, and so they're going to come after you." And I just remember saying to myself, and I was still working at this time, so I just remember saying to myself, man, I wish a nigga would. I wish you would, boy. And then God said to me, what are you going to do? You're going to shoot him? And I'm like, something's going to happen to him. And God was like, oh man, you're such a badass, because Jesus never died for abusive men. He just died for good people. And I'm like, damn, Lord. He's like, what do you think you're here to do? Like, it's a dime a dozen dudes that would shoot somebody to do something like that to a woman. Like, that's going to change your culture? And then 2-3 weeks later, we had a sex worker and her boyfriend / pimp in church. And I was never good with it. I to be honest with you, I didn't really work with them. I didn't do a lot of work with them.
That's true, yeah.
So, but my point is, there is a way to come back. Doesn't matter what you've done. There is a way to come back to God. It may very well be that you're an abusive, horrible person that lost the girl forever. And I would say, even if you change or you're going toward changing, do not contact her and tell her you're changing. Just change. Because that poor girl might be in a situation where she finds her way back to you, and it's just not healthy for her. So I do believe that if you are this kind of person, that you can absolutely change, that God can change you from the inside out. But God can forgive, but those women are never going to forget what was done to them, nor should they. And that's got to be honored somehow in your recovery process between you and God. And so, if you've seen me with my sons, you'd be like, man, why is this guy so hard on his boys? But a lot of this can get dealt with by the time they're 5 years old. Honestly, I can usually tell by like a 5-year-old what kind of, I can just tell. You got kids that are like comfortable slapping their moms in the face, comfortable slapping their grandmothers in the face, like they're comfortable. Okay. Like, I just know. So, anyway, anybody can change. All of us can change. There are murderers. There are child molesters. There are rapists. There are evil Wall Street CEOs and horrible people that work for intelligence organizations and militaries. The worst kind of roster on the face of the earth we're going to see in the new world, because we believe that Jesus died even for that, and that Jesus's goodness is more powerful than the combined evil of all of our badness. And I truly, truly believe that. Some of you have done things you cannot undo. And it's not your job to undo them anymore. Just go to the cross. That's all I got for you. Like, I understand nobody's religious. I get it. All I can tell you is we do have something for you. If you've got blood on your hands, believe me. And it's the only thing that can get it out. And people always ask me, why is your God so obsessed with blood in these sacrifices? Well, why? Well, this is why. Because yes, God can forgive the dude that cut this girl's throat in cold blood, but he can't just willy-nilly forgive him. He puts Jesus on the cross and his body got turned inside out because of the beating. Many people don't understand this. Your intestines would be exposed. Your face was torn open. It was horrible crucifixion. Jesus is clearly experiencing hypovolemic shock on the way to the hill to be crucified, and that's why he fell and couldn't get up anymore. He's losing so much blood loss, and that's the reason he died after 3 hours. It was the beating that did about 75% of his death, because dudes usually are on the cross for days. But he was beaten so brutally that he only lasted for 3 hours. And it was brutal. And the Bible says you would not be able to recognize him as a human being if you saw him. As Marilyn Manson aptly wrote, meat in the shape of a T. People say, why is your God like that? Why can't he just forgive people? That's the fucking reason why. Because we're out here cutting girls' throats, doing all types of shit. And if God tells that guy, hey man, I forgive you, you had a bad day, you want God to be an enabler just like everybody around that fucking kid. No. God's going to say, I can forgive you because I love you, but look at that cross. That's what you did to that girl, and that's what you did to that mother. And that's what you did to me, because I made that girl in the secret place of her mother's womb before her mother even knew she was around. And that's how you did somebody that was so precious to me. I can forgive you, but you got to see out there what kind of value this girl had to me. I'm going to put my most valuable eternal possession on a cross and have him completely annihilated. A, to atone for your sin. But B, for you to understand, This is what you've done. I got bloody crosses in my mind, fellas, and I think about that daily. But that's why the cross had to be as bad as it is. None of us understands truly how evil we are. You see that guy in the court and the way he was sitting and all the rest of it, and Brock Turner and the rest of these people. None of us knows how evil we are. Some of that is God's mercy, because if we truly understand how truly deeply fucked up we were, we would not get out of bed in the morning. But believe me, when the Bible says we're that bad, we are that fucking bad. Believe me.
You have like this picture of like a whole human being, and it's like separated by body, soul, spirit, which we've talked about. The spirit is the part of you that connects with God or the supernatural. It's like the part of you that like, ooh, feels like creepily when you go into like an old Indian burial ground or something where there's bodies that were buried there, but you didn't know it, but you felt something before you got there. That's sort of your spirit. It kind of like, you know, it has its extensions into the supernatural or the unseen realms. Then you have your body, which is obvious. I mean, it has extensions into the physical world. And then we have our soul, which is our mind, our will, and our emotions. So you have like this complete human being. And when the human being is complete and shining perfectly forward as a really clear picture of what God is like. But when we fell in the garden, every single person after that was born broken, you could say. It was almost like you have a mirror that reflects the glory and image of God, and you smash the mirror and all you have is shards. And you're trying to put the shards together and it makes this kind of broken image. Then you have Jesus who comes and he dies on the cross, and he makes it so that way we can start, you know, fixing the lines on this mirror to make it a more complete picture. But each human being is always going to have chunks missing, and you have the, you know, like God's grace comes and God graces us to be better than we are sometimes, you know, but there's that part of us that's dark and it's hardened and it's evil, and that's the part that Jesus reaches toward. And I think that when like even in this story, like Bobby was like, he was obsessive about her, and then when they tell the story, you hear that okay, he had an abusive dad and all these different things that like darkened his darkness.
Yeah.
And then he took that darkness, and instead of like looking it in the face and say, okay, this is who I am, and like I said, like we're missing things. Like if he would have had a relationship with Jesus, some of that stuff might have been able to get healed inside of him, but he was experiencing no healing from the situation, and he just kept pushing forward. And so then he ends up taking that darkness, and it goes on to somebody else in the form of, in his mind, he thought it was love. And I think love is one of the purest things like in the entire world. I mean, the Bible says that God is love. And so like when I was watching this and I'm like looking at this guy, he's saying he loves her, but then the love is like all, it's destructive. So love shouldn't be destructive. We are, you know, we are people that are both light and dark. So there are destructive elements to us. But if a relationship is destructive, it's, you got to get the help. Don't stay in a situation like that. And sometimes it's helpful to say, like, to count the cost, to look at a sacrifice is going to get made whether you stay in the relationship or you leave. And so sometimes you have to look at it and say, okay, if I stay, what's going to happen? And if I leave, like, yes, I'm going to be heartbroken, things are going to be difficult, you know, XYZ, whatever. But if you stay, maybe your life is on the line, maybe the lives of your children. And if you look at this story, I mean, she hated the way her mother was allowing herself to get treated by this man, but then she was doing the same thing. So she could clearly see that her mother was in a bad relationship, and she didn't even see homeboy put his hands on the mom. She just saw the guy kind of ordering her around. Yeah. And the relationship that she was in was, to her knowledge, a lot more toxic than what her mother had. I mean, we don't see behind the scenes with the mom, but...
Well, the mom wasn't showing up with no bruises.
True. Fair.
I mean, she saw the bruises.
Right.
You know?
So there is the side of it, like, where you have to say, okay, what am I teaching my boys? What am I teaching my girls through my relationship? And, like, I don't want to be the type of mother that, you know, 20, 30 years from now is looking at my daughter in an abusive relationship, knowing that I never showed her what it was like to leave that or to stand up to that. So, you know, the mother at the end is helpless with the death of her daughter, but there are things that can happen before that can be preventative to some of these things. And I do think that it's important for friends to be, you know, involved. And there are times like I remember when my mother came to me, my friend was 15, and she was like, where is, you know, so-and-so. Yeah. Let's say her name is Sarah. She's like, where is Sarah? And I'm like, so I remember in that moment thinking, okay, like, I owe it to my friend not to tell her business, even though I knew where she was. Well, roughly knew where she might be. And, but at the same time, I was like, but if she's in danger, I will slice the throat of my loyalty to my friend to get her safe. And my mother looked at me and she said, Sori, now is the time to say what you know. And so I was like, all right, she's been hanging out with homeboy, blah, blah, blah. This is where the guy hangs out, blah, blah, blah. So they called the school, got the guy's information, and got her home. But yeah, like, there are times where you have to say something. Like, if you can see through a situation and you can see, like, this is abusive and she's not doing anything to get herself out of it, it's a fine line, right? Because you got to say what you can say to protect her, while at the same time staying in their corner, because you don't want them to be like, you know what, you're out. Because obviously Bobby wouldn't have wanted her around anybody that was going to speak up and say something. Yeah. So, yeah, crazy situation.
Yep. Good selection, though.
Yeah,
good selection.
I thought so too. Yeah.
Like I said, shout out to all the Twitter followers. Like, share, comment, subscribe. We do full-length movies all the time. If you want to be part of being
fun.
An actual director, send me an email, vanessori@gmail.com, and we'll set up times and dates for you. I think we got another movie coming this Friday.
We do, and I'm going to get the list up on Patreon of our February streams.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to book one of those, send the messages, because I'm going to be creating that list probably tomorrow and getting that up on Patreon. So be on the lookout for that.
Yeah. Much love to all you beautiful people.
Yeah.
Take care of yourselves. Last thing I'll say, girls, is that if you love the dude, not you, but sometimes the relationship becomes the sacrificial lamb that guy needs to change. So there's a sense in which, I said this before, but somebody needs to hear this. There's a sense in which it literally cannot be you. Right? It's the next one. And it hurts because women generally don't leave the first time or the 9th time they've been hit. And so it creates this bad situation where it's like, you forgave him, you overlooked it, but you keep investing more and more in yourself, and then by the time you really know you need to leave, he's like, look how long we've been together, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes the most loving thing you could do is make them lose that relationship, because then they really hit rock bottom. Because I remember talking to homeboy, he had no reason to believe or think this, but he never thought you were going to do anything. He never thought you were going to leave. He thought he could do, XYZ thing. Yeah, I would say that they use a lot of, you abandoned me, blah, blah, blah. And you just have to redefine what it means to support that person, right? So I know a lot of women are just disposed to be very outward focused and always worry about somebody else and not them. So it's not enough to tell women, like, to save your own life. So I just put that out there to you as well, man. Like, if you truly love him, like, you're gonna have to sacrifice. You're gonna have to put that relationship on the altar and sacrifice it for his sake if you really love him. It cannot be you. And whatever you do philosophically, psychologically, theologically to reconcile that, I don't necessarily, I don't care. But whatever it is, you got to have it in your head that the most loving thing you could do for this person at this point is to cut them loose for good. Break contact if necessary. Most of the time it is necessary. And let him deal with the cold, hard ramifications of what he's doing. So that's how I'd look at it. And I agree. There are false accusations. But there are hundreds of women that die every year. And the fact of the matter is, most of them are not going legal. I grew up my entire life, and it never got legal. But it was clearly illegal behavior. There was one time it got legal, and so I get it. There is a lot of false accusations. There's a lot of Me Too. I understand that. Purpose of this discussion, though, is we know every year women die, and it's usually by the hand of somebody that they know, domestic violence, etc. So I get it. I'm not saying every man is horrible. Most men are good, I actually believe. Good in the sense of they're not going to hit a woman, yada yada. You guys know what I mean by that. But this is an actual real situation where that does happen. And this is one of the reasons why I'm extremely concerned about the manosphere stuff and the misogyny stuff. Because I'm really, really feeling a spirit of misogyny in the air right now.
Yeah.
I just think we got to be really, really careful. Just because the liberals or the whatever we're calling them, just because they say the stuff and maybe they go overboard with it, doesn't mean that we swing the pendulum back now and, you know what I'm saying, go the other way. Like, we got to be focused here. Most of the sexual assaults that happen with men committing them against women. Most cases of domestic violence happen with men committing them against women. Most cases of spousal or intimate partner murder are men against women. And these are not women. And as I said, the vast majority of those women do not lawyer up. They do not go to the police. Yep. They keep everything quiet. Those are the women I'm talking about. The women that never make it to court. The women that never post on Facebook. The women that start isolating the more and more they get abused because they're running cover for their husband or their boyfriend, right? That's what I'm talking about here.
Go ahead. They're working on, I don't know if it's out yet, but it's a new nail polish that is going to be able to test your drink. You can stick it in and it's going to let you know whether or not somebody's put a roofie in it or whatever. It's crazy.
It's just crazy to me that these women have to do this.
Yeah, the level that it has to go to. Right. Yeah. No, I
crazy.
hear you. It's so weird because, like, I think Franco was like, prepare yourself, get some tissues, But for some reason, like, I think the topic can't even be, be talked about in a sense. Like, it doesn't, I don't even feel like emotional about it because, not like I don't feel, it's almost like it carries with it so much baggage that your emotions are kind of like setting on a shelf and won't tip over. And like, these stories, they bring back memories, they bring back situations, they bring back stories of other people, they remind me of people, both men and women in these situations. So it's just, you watch it and you're like, this is how things go. Like, this is actually, it's controlling people in relationships is actually pretty, it can be pretty normal in a sense, as in it happens often, but it shouldn't be getting to that level. And I think that a lot of times people don't know what to do. And there's the whole zeitgeist is changing. Like, I noticed, like, when younger people are like talking, like, it's almost like people don't know healthy lines for relationships anymore.
I agree.
Like, girls will be like, he's liking all these Instagram photos of this other woman. Is this okay? Like, oh, my guy watches porn. I don't like it, but is that okay as long as he doesn't... They draw weird lines, like, as long as he doesn't save any of them to his phone, then it's okay. It's like, well, what do you mean? So, like, I feel like that culturally, we are at a place where there's been... And maybe this has to do with the way that we have switched male to female and said it doesn't matter and that kids don't need a mother and a father, like a masculine you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if because we've been playing these games, and I say games because I don't believe that you can mess with gender. Like, I think that you are a male, you are a female, and I think that there can be confusion inside of that, and I think that there are people that need help, and that there are people that have been put through a lot of things that have brought them to that place. So I'm not, like, discrediting people in those situations, but I do think that culturally, both men and women have almost lost their way in how to relate to each other
100%.
And how to move forward together.
100%.
Like, it seems like, there's this degrading language that's used toward women, and there's this disrespectful language that's used toward men.
Yeah.
And it doesn't seem like anybody is celebrating the other side anymore.
And it's fascinating because all these people want relationships.
Yes.
But they're extremely... I hear the men, and they're like... when the woman talks about getting cheated on, mistreated, the dudes have no. They're like, well, you went with a Chad. You went with a guy that you knew was gonna, and then you didn't care about talking to the regular guy. It's like, oh, I see. So you were the regular guy in high school, and the girls kept ignoring you, and now you see this girl with a black eye, and she's all fucked up. So you're happy. You're happy that she's in that situation. And look,
Because she had the audacity to not choose
I didn't have a walk in the park, okay? Like, I didn't have a walk in the park in my first marriage. A lot of really deep, terrible things. But that's one person. There's 8 billion people on the planet. And the way I hear these dudes characterizing women, and you hear it with the women too. I mean, there's definitely, it's like beyond the battle of the sexes.
Yeah, it's like
it's something else. It's really dark.
Resentment.
It's really on both sides. Both sides. It's really dark.
So one of the things that I've thought of is that you have, so you have God Himself, who reflects Himself as the divine masculine and the divine feminine. You see both of them representing God in the scriptures. He represents Himself both ways.
Yep.
And then you have men. He says that He made them both male and female after His likeness and in His image. So both men and women are made this way. So you have a category of man and you have a category of woman, and both of them are going to show His image and His likeness. But I think that what happens is you have fathers, brothers, boyfriends, husbands, cousins, friends. You have all these categories of men. Same thing with women. And I think that within those categories, so maybe you see, again, because we're all sinners, then that means that every man in all of those categories that I just listed off, if you're looking, you're going to see his dark side, because they're all going to mess up. But you can also see the side of them that reflects the image and likeness of God. That's there's the positive side. But if you're so bent on seeing the negative, then that's all you're going to see. And it becomes easier and easier to only see negative. And the same thing is true with men. They can look at the women, maybe somebody got cheated on, or they saw someone, now they're all hoes, blah, blah, blah. And it's just disrespect, disregard, whatever. And then you have this, it just keeps adding. And then you have bitter older people that cannot take accountability for the type of people that they're attracted to. Ma'am, you are attracted to a destructive man who's a bad boy, but he is destructive, and then after X amount of time goes by and your life is in shambles because you chose him, then you leave him, but then you find yourself with another guy like that. Like we have to make different choices, and we have to see what's healthy and go for those things. But I think that there's just sort of this against each other. Doesn't seem like where are our examples of men and women that celebrate each other and that recognize that both parties are messed up, but you're here to help each other? Like, Vincent's not perfect and neither am I, and like there are ways where we hold each other up and we cover each other's backs and we take care of each other, and that's what you ultimately need in relationships. You want to be able to protect each other. Like, there are elements of me that soften you and help you to be a better dad and a better husband, and there are elements of me that you turn like the banks of a river, and all of a sudden I feel differently about something because I didn't have a different perspective that I needed somebody else who's outside of the situation to show me. And like, we help each other to be better at our roles in life, in society, in our relationships with our kids and with each other.
Yeah.
But it seems like that because we're so busy sniping at each other, and like the immaturity of it too, like when I hear women like mocking men, especially when for whatever reason they talk about their small junk, it's like, what do you, anytime,
and then the 9 to 5. God help you if you're a 9 to 5 guy. Women have no respect for the 9 to 5ers anymore.
Why can't we?
Because they they want to date all these celebrities or fake YouTube celebrities.
Yeah. When like the intention of the heart, like people recognize that, and it's like, okay, he might not be making a bunch of money, but he's willing to work for his family. He's willing to go and like work a 9 to 5 for his life to take care of his family and to love his, it's like that. The amount of effort that it takes to stay with a job that's a 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, or even working weekends, like that takes diligence, and that takes like you.
Yeah, and millions of dudes do it, and
it doesn't.
Where the culture's at right now, everybody they're like, oh, anybody could do YouTube, so if you're not,
But that's not true. Not everybody can do YouTube.
There's this whole new class of like fake celebrity, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very difficult.
Yeah.
And we were together when I had I've always had kind of exotic jobs or whatever, but you'd rather me be in a 9 to 5 versus the other thing I was doing, right? So, but like, I don't know. It's tough. I see it on both sides. It's tough for men. It's tough for women. That's why every time we watch this stuff, I'm just very glad, that we have each other. We take it for granted, man, because now it's like, it's tough. Because it's like, imagine dating a dude that's imbibed 2-3 years of Andrew Tate and all that bullshit, and another girl who's imbibed 2 years of The View or whatever. It's like, sometimes it's like, man, how are we ever going to find each other? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
and
man.
the thing is, like, again, people don't realize, like, we are all teaching the younger generation. Okay, this is how you interact with men and women, and you cannot disrespect your husband without it affecting your male children, and you can't abuse your wife without it affecting your daughters and your sons. Like, they're watching. And they are getting an understanding of what life is like and how these roles and interactions are supposed to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you for our TED Talk, our dual TED Talk.
Yeah.
We'll be here 7 days a week.
We are now stepping off of all soapboxes.
Yeah. We're going to give...
Yeah, good movie.
That's what we used to say in the meetings. We're going to give you 5 minutes back.
Yeah.
Let's let everybody...
Good
yes,
pick,
Dwayne.
Franco.
Dwayne, you are a celebrity. You are a celebrity, Dwayne. We have another movie scheduled, I think, this Friday. We can have a movie between now and Friday. Like I said, give me an email, vanessori@gmail.com. We'll put a spot up on the Patreon side. Patreon, there's a free section on Patreon. So that'll give you all the schedules and stuff. And we'll put up, like, if somebody sends me an email and says, I want to watch this movie, I want to watch that movie, we'll put it up for, a crowdfunding sort of thingamajig, and then we'll promote it for you and everything. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Couldn't they start just talking in the comment section on Patreon? Because there's a post that has, these are the upcoming shows. People could start talking in there, because when I post it, I'm probably going to do it tomorrow.
We'll put the link in the description for it.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to put the link in the description of the video, but if not, it'll be up on our Patreon. And then you should be able to, I'm going to leave it free for everybody, so you can get to that post, and you should be able to comment. Yeah,
you should be able to comment. Yep. All right, guys. Much love to all you beautiful people. This is like the third time I've said out.
Through.
Shout
out to our DJ.
Shout out to DJ Mike. Gang.
Director Mike.
Director Mike.
What do you give this one? You didn't rate it.
Oh, shit.
I think I'm going to go with a 9.6.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 9.5. I almost wanted it to have like a happy ending, like she got out of the bag and whatever.
I saw blood on his hands when he came in the first scene.
Yeah, I didn't want to believe that she died, That's DJ Tanner, for God's sake. So I'll give it a 9.5 for not letting us off the hook. For sure. All right, guys. All you beautiful people on Twitter, thank you. Remember, subscribe on Twitter. That way, the next time we do a movie, you will be informed.
You'll be in the know.
You'll be in the know. Also, we also watch TV series. We did the Addams Family. We did a couple other things too. So
yeah, we did that church one.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's one coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, we did, and Nick is going to be doing that that cartoon, that the Ibanez Hotel or something like that.
The Ibanez Hotel?
Maybe Abusive. I don't know.
So we also watch shows together.
Yes, we do.
And look, if you watch it from Twitter, as you can see, it's all good, right? So watch it from Twitter or watch it from Rumble. As you can see, we do it start to finish, and so if we did that on YouTube, obviously it wouldn't work because they will block us. But we simulcast to all different places. We did Twitter and what do you call it today? Rumble at the same time, dear listener. At the same time.